your generation is the one that is the most susceptible to a false truth when it comes to investing. And this is the way that false truth goes. High risk means high reward. That's what the world is telling you. If I take on more risk, I'm going to get a higher rate of return. But that's not actually what happens. What happens in investing is if I'm willing to take on more risk, I should receive a higher rate of return to compensate me for that risk. That's what should happen. High risk, in fact, does not mean higher reward. So just because someone says, oh, I'm going to go do this individual stock, I'm going to go do this crypto, I'm going to go do this NFT, I'm going to go fill in the blank on the aggressive type of investment that you've heard about, that you saw on TikTok, that you've been pitched, just because it's more risky, just because it's more aggressive, just because it's farther out on the risk spectrum, does not mean that it's going to yield more favorable results.
Well, I mean, look, when you take Investing 101, you hear about the efficient frontier, and there is some truth, and that's why you have to always be careful with anything. There's always a little ounce of truth, that's what gives it the power that then allows people to manipulate it and use it against you. Is that without a doubt, there are things, it's just like your Roth IRA. I want you to have somewhat aggressive stuff in there,
sure,
but I want it to be something that's not speculative. I want it to actually have an investment component to it, not a speculative component. And so many things out there for this younger generation is that we're going to help you cut the corner off so you don't have to save as much, you don't have to be as patient. We're going to let you do this faster. That is the part, that's the risk we're trying to protect you from. And that's why if we're giving you guidance on how you actually do this in implementation, our advice is keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it.
The first thing is always be buying. I mean, if the set it and forget it, because by the other thing that I think is a curse on this younger generation is that these distractions into these cutting the corners off, when you finally fast forward 2 to 3 years and you realize, hey, okay, maybe buying this speculative investing or chasing this, what was hot last year, this is a fool's errand. The problem is now you've lost a few more years on that wealth multiplier that's not working for you. So I would rather you, when I say just do something, make it automatic for the people where you're actually setting up some dollar cost averaging every month out of every paycheck. This percentage is just always buying into the market. So the index funds, you're going to be that much better for the future.
And why do we want you to always be buying? Well, the answer is it's because the cost of not doing so can be huge. If we look at the difference in timing the market versus time in the market, do you recognize that if you would have invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 starting in 1988 all the way till 2023, just investing $10,000 one time, that $10,000 would have turned into $418,000 if you just left it in the market. But if you happen to just miss the 5 best days, only 5 trading days in that nearly 40-year period, you would have only built $264,000. If you missed the 10 best trading days, it'd be about $191,000. If you miss the best 30 days, the best cumulative month over that entire 40-year period, your $10,000 have only turned into $71,000. This is why we always want you buying. We always want you participating. We always want you putting your money to work so you don't risk missing the most exciting times to have your money working for you.
The thing, just to show everybody how nerdy we are, in our content meeting, we were talking about, this is one thing, the tried and true, but I know there's going to be a lot of people out there, and I've already alluded to it with chasing the hot dot. And Bo, you horrified me when you shared that for a lot of people, we're taking sports betting and now treating this as almost like a component of your investment allocation. That scares me to death because that seems to be now the latest hot dot, and you can't get away from it. I mean, it seems like every podcast I listen to has got some type of sports betting advertising. Everything is pushing you in this direction, and then that doesn't even take into account all the cryptos, the real estate, all the people that are out there pushing the latest and greatest hot trend. How do you get around this? I mean, what is somebody who's young in their 20s? How do they get away from this noise?
Well, what's the allure? What is the siren song when you are chasing this hot dot? It's return. It's, oh my gosh, if you go do this, you're going to have 100x return. If you go do this, you're going to make 50%. If you go do this, you're going to, and it's really focusing on how much can you make, how much can you make, how much can you make. But would you believe us if we told you that early on in your journey, Your savings rate, just the rate of savings which you employ against your income, is exponentially more valuable than your rate of return. We chase the hot dot so that we can amp up our rate of return, but realistically early on, the rate of return really is not all that important. And again, if you don't believe us, let's walk you through a case study. Let's take two investors, Sal the Savant and Manny the Mutant. They both make $50,000 a year of annual income, and we're going to assume that they both have a 3% annual wage increase. Now, Sal the Savant is only going to save 10%. You're going to see why in a second, but Sal's going to save 10%, and Manny says, you know what, I'm going to save 25% of my gross income. But Sal, because he has the ability to pick stocks and find the hot dots and find the amazing things, Sal is going to annualize a 25% rate of return. I'm going to say that again, Brian, because it sounds so absolutely egregious. Every single year, Sal is going to make 25% over and over and over. Manny, on the other hand, is going to go buy a low-cost index fund and is going to make 10% annualized while he's investing. So Manny is saving more but making less. Sal is saving less but making more. Do you recognize at this pace, it would take Sal 10 years, a full decade to catch up to Manny? I'm going to say that a little different. Sal would have to annualize 25% every single year for 10 years straight to make up for Manny just saving more at the onset.
And we know that even outperformers consistently can't do that.
That's right.
Unless it's a Ponzi scheme or something that is cooking the books in the back corners and you're being taken for a ride. You just don't see that type of over-performance over and over again. So it's back to the key learning point there. Your savings rate, especially when you're young, is more important than even rate of return. It's really setting up those automatic for the people behaviors that's going to ensure that, you know what, we're taking this component of time that we have in just abundance, and we're figuring out how we actually create traction so that my future self has those sloppy tears of joy and excitement when I'm in my 50s, all because I made good decisions when I was in my 20s.
Oh, okay, but Brian, hard stop. We're talking about investing and building dollars and growing, but these folks are in their 20s, and the 20s is the only time in life where you get to have certain experiences and you have freedom and all this. Why are we talking about all this? We're gonna waste the most precious years of our life where we could be doing things and creating experiences, all for the sake of building for some future self.
This is why I do think that we are that perfect balance of practicality of here's the way the numbers work. But then we also go put the behavioral stuff in there. And I know I've because we both come from very humble beginnings, but I'm now in my 50s and I don't have regrets on how I did my 20s because I understood this concept of I was very intentional with my experiences. And I want to talk to you guys out there so you can kind of navigate this well, because I think there's something that social media has done a very big injustice on, is that they have not drawn attention that for most of us in our 20s, especially if you come from humble beginnings, you don't need a lot to keep you happy. I mean, I remember when I went on my honeymoon, I just couldn't believe that I was like, wait a minute, this is an all-inclusive. I get all my meals.
Hold on, if I choose steak or chicken, I get steak and chicken.
There were so many things that just blew my mind that now I look at it as an older version of myself that just seems somewhat basic. But I was just, and it's the same way I used to go on vacations and we'd share, a condo and load up multiple couples, and it didn't matter if the beds were not the king-size beds in all the rooms, is because in your 20s, what is acceptable to you is the broadest it's going to be in your life. So to try to use social media to tell you've got to do luxury, you've got to do all these things, it's a falsehood. I want you to bedazzle your basic life. And what I mean by that is focus on what matters. And one of the examples I give is that I went to Italy when I was broke as a joke with my wife. We made incredible memories on the cheap, and my trip still has the gondolas. It still has, doing things in Rome to see the Colosseum. The difference is I'm dragging my luggage down the cobblestone. I'm actually taking public transportation. I'm not staying in the 5-star resorts. You can do this in a way that fits where you are in life. It doesn't mean you have to defer your entire life and wait until you're you're wealthy and old to enjoy it. You just have to do it in a bedazzled, basic way.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is when you begin to really think about things this way, it does allow your focus to clarify where you actually know the things that you really value, not what other people value for you. Even me, where I am right now, in the messy middle stage, which I'm not in my 20s anymore, but a lot of people in their 20s are in the messy middle or kind of starting in that phase. One of the things I recognize is right now, yeah, I could grab my wife and we could hop on a plane and we could go to Europe and we could go do the big, luxurious, amazing vacation. But you know what I found that we love? Just because we're so busy and we've got all these kids and things pulling us in 1,000 different directions. If I can go to a coffee shop and I can sit down with my wife and I can get a cup of coffee or a latte in a cup that's not to go and I can sit there and drink it, that right there in this season, in this moment, doing that once a week, once a month, every so often, is way more valuable for us than flying out to Europe and doing the big, gigantic, amazing vacation. So understanding and finding what those things are that you truly enjoy that create those intentional experiences do not have to be expensive. Just because someone on TikTok or Instagram said that this is what your life ought to look like does not mean that that is what is true for you. So there are ways that you can bedazzle your basic life and focus on the things that really bring you happiness and fulfillment. And you don't have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70, 80 year olds to do that. You can do that right now without sacrificing building for your future self.